The Wannsee Conference, the meeting that planned mass murder. Imagine a beautiful lakeside villa on a cold January day. Calm water, snow on the ground. Inside, a group of well-dressed officials sip coffee and discuss administration and transportation. But behind those polite words was one of the most chilling meetings in modern history. This is the story of the Wannsee Conference, a 90-minute meeting in 1942 where high-ranking Nazi officials quietly coordinated the plan to murder millions of Jewish people in Europe. When the Wannsee Conference took place on January 20th, 1942, World War II was already raging. Germany had invaded Poland, France, and much of Eastern Europe. Millions of Jewish men, women, and children were already facing persecution, forced into ghettos, and targeted by mass shootings in the East. From the very beginning, anti-Semitism was central to Nazi ideology. Jewish people were blamed for Germany's problems. They were stripped of rights through laws like the Nuremberg Laws of 1935. Many were pushed out of jobs, schools, and public life. By 1941, the violence had escalated. Special killing units, called Einsatzgruppen, followed the German army into the Soviet Union. These units carried out mass shootings of Jewish communities, often in forests or ravines. The Nazi leadership had already decided that they wanted Europe to be free of Jews. The question they now faced was not if they would remove them, but how. Why a conference at Wannsee? In late 1941, the head of the SS and German police, Heinrich Himmler, and his trusted subordinate Reinhard Heydrich were given the task of organizing what they called the final solution of the Jewish question. This phrase was a cold, bureaucratic way of describing a plan to completely destroy Jewish life in Europe. But Nazi Germany was a complicated system. Different offices controlled transport, the police, occupied territories, and legal matters. Heydrich wanted all these agencies to cooperate and to recognize the SS as the central power directing this policy. So he invited key officials to a villa on the shores of Lake Wannsee, just outside Berlin. It looked like the perfect place for a quiet winter retreat. Instead, it became the site of a deadly, administrative meeting. Who attended the Wannsee Conference? Only 15 men attended the conference. They were not random soldiers or low-level clerks. They were senior officials from the SS, representatives from government ministries like the Ministry of the Interior, the Foreign Office, the Justice Ministry, officials from occupied territories in Eastern Europe. Most were educated and held advanced degrees, lawyers, civil servants, and career administrators. The meeting was chaired by Reinhard Heydrich, one of the most powerful and feared figures in Nazi Germany. Also present was Adolf Eichmann, a key organizer of Jewish deportations. He was there to take notes and later prepare a summary of the decisions. The fact that this was not a stormy, chaotic argument, but a calm meeting of professionals is one of the most disturbing parts of the story. They were there to discuss how to carry out mass murder in an orderly way. What was discussed? The Wannsee Conference lasted only about 90 minutes. Yet in that short time, they calmly discussed the fate of around 11 million Jews living across Europe. Heydrich presented statistics, listing Jewish populations country by country: Germany, Austria, Poland, France, the Netherlands, Belgium, the Soviet Union, and more. The men at the table talked about deportations, moving Jewish people from all over Europe to the east. Forced labor, those who were fit would be worked until they died from exhaustion and harsh conditions. And for those who survived this work, they expected few would, there were plans for them as well. At Wannsee, they spoke in code. They used phrases like evacuation to the east and special treatment. These were deliberate euphemisms meant to hide the reality of mass killings. The conference did not start the Holocaust. Mass shootings and killings had already begun. But Wannsee helped to systematize it, coordinating police, railways, administrative offices, and occupation authorities, making sure everyone understood the goal and their role in achieving it. This was genocide organized as bureaucratic policy. The final solution becomes systematic by January 1942. Killing centers were already being planned or were in operation in occupied Poland. After Wannsee, deportations of Jews from across Europe to these killing centers intensified. Places like Belzec, Sobibor, Treblinka, Chelmno, Auschwitz-Birkenau, and Majdanek became central to the murder process. The conference made clear Jews from every European country under Nazi control or influence were to be included. Mixed marriages and people with partial Jewish ancestry, Mischlinge in Nazi terms, were carefully categorized and discussed. These were not emotional outbursts. They were calm, technical discussions about trains, schedules, legal definitions, who would be deported first. It is one of history's most chilling examples of how ordinary administrative tools, files, lists, forms, and meetings can be used in service of extraordinary evil. We know about the Wannsee Conference mainly because of one key document, the Wannsee Protocol. This was a 15-page summary written by Adolf Eichmann based on his notes from the meeting. Most copies of this document were destroyed by the Nazis as the war turned against them. But one copy survived, discovered after the war in German Foreign Office files. In this protocol, we see the list of Jewish populations by country, references to deportations and labor, the polite, formal language of government officials. What we do not see are graphic descriptions or open, direct orders like, kill everyone here and now. Instead, we see carefully chosen bureaucratic phrases that hide what they all understood. They were planning the total destruction of Jewish communities across Europe. For historians, this document has become a crucial piece of evidence, showing the level of cooperation between different branches of the Nazi state. The understanding, at high levels, of the scale of the planned murders. Many of the men who attended the Wannsee Conference did not face immediate justice. Reinhard Heydrich was assassinated later in 1942 in Prague by Czech and Slovak resistance fighters trained by the British. Adolf Eichmann escaped Europe after the war, but was captured by Israeli agents in Argentina in 1960, put on trial in Jerusalem, and executed in 1962. Others faced trials in Germany or at Nuremberg, but some lived relatively quiet lives after the war. The Wannsee Villa itself survived. Today, it is a memorial and educational centre where visitors can learn about the conference, see historical documents, and reflect on how such a meeting became possible. The story of Wannsee is not only about the horrors of the Nazi regime. It is also a warning about what can happen when hatred becomes state policy. When ordinary institutions, ministries, railroads, offices serve a destructive ideology instead of human values. Why does this 90-minute meeting in a lakeside villa still matter today? Because it shows that genocide is not only carried out on battlefields, it can be prepared in meeting rooms, with calendars, charts, and polite conversation. The Wannsee Conference reminds us that language matters. When people use cold, vague language to talk about human lives, it can be a way of hiding cruelty. Bureaucracy has power. People behind desks can affect the fate of millions, for good or for harm. Responsibility is shared. The Holocaust was not the work of one person alone, but a large system involving many ordinary individuals who chose to participate. Today, the villa at Wannsee has been turned from a place of planning into a place of remembrance and education. School groups, historians, and visitors from around the world come there to learn, to mourn, and to ask hard questions. As we look back on the Wannsee Conference, we are not just studying a meeting in 1942. We are asking ourselves, how do we respond when we see prejudice and hatred spreading? How do we make sure that our governments, our institutions, and our own choices respect human dignity? The story of Wannsee is a reminder that evil can wear a suit and sit at a conference table. But it's also a reminder that remembering and teaching these stories is one way we resist that evil today. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, consider sharing it and let me know in the comments what other moments in history you'd like to explore next.